Thank you for listening to the show at the Savage Nation.
Your healthy radio addiction starts now.
Power to the people!
The Laura Ingraham Show.
Sweet Indian maiden, one day he'll hold you, in his arms fold you, Cherokee.
You're very, very special people. You were here long before any of us were here. Although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas. But you know what? I like you because you are special.
It is deeply unfortunate that the President of the United States cannot even make it through a ceremony honoring these heroes without having to throw out a racial slur.
Turkey sound or an Indian sound you just played?
Well, it's just so unfortunate that Donald Trump can't get through a code talkers ceremony without issuing a racial slur. And frankly, my grandpappy could have helped decode all of that lingo back then during Iwo Jima and all those other, whatever they were, battles in World War II. And my goodness, I mean, could those men have really stepped up and just smacked Donald Trump in the face, the creep that he is? I'm just at a loss for words, so I'm just going to tap out the code myself. Elizabeth Warren here. Just call me Chief Princess of Running Mouth.
855-40 Laura. How are you guys? How you doing? Donald Trump. That was an interesting ceremony, I thought. First of all, I didn't even know there were code talkers still alive. That was amazing. And a couple of those gentlemen, who are American heroes, by the way, Raymond will tell us the history of this in case you missed. Actually, they went through the whole history in the ceremony, which was really interesting. That in and of itself was interesting. But the story of the code talkers is getting lost in the fracas involving President Trump not being able to resist taking a shot at Pocahontas. See, he should have said Pocahontas. That's my one quibble with him yesterday. He said Pocahontas because, of course, Elizabeth Warren faked her Indian lineage to get a position, wasn't it at Harvard? She checked the box that she shouldn't have checked back then. So the media went absolutely bonkers yesterday after this, and we'll get into that. We have Melanie Morgan's going to stop by. She wants to corral all the victims of the Democrats' sexual harassing ways together and make a big fuss about that to push back on the media failure to be at least fair in the way they're covering all of this. So she'll join us. We have a lot of other great topics we're going to get to. Personal responsibility, crime, a housing complex in L.A. that is a gang-infested and undoubtedly illegal immigrant-infested nightmare. And you're not going to believe who's suing whom in all of this because of all the rampant crime that's been going on for years. It's a great California nightmare story. Everyone at California dreaming, surfing USA. Yeah, we're surfing the crime wave out there. That's what we're surfing. So we'll talk about that in a lot more. We have the tax bill. Looks like several votes are up for grabs when it comes to supporting this tax bill. The Republicans don't get this done. They're toast. We have a great piece of news for you that you were ahead of the curve on if you were watching the Ingraham angle last night, because I was the first one to report this on national television. I will tell you about that next segment. But Sarah Huckabee Sanders walks into that briefing room yesterday, and were the questions about tax reform, North Korea, ISIS, the China issue with North Korea, the NAFTA negotiations? No, this is what they were about.
Is it appropriate for the president to use a racial slur in any context?
I don't believe that it is appropriate for him to make a racial slur or anybody else.
This is a racial slur, so why is it appropriate for him to?
Well, I think, like I said, I don't think that it is, and I don't think that was certainly not the president's intent.
That's not where they stopped, though. They didn't stop there. It kept going.
Does he see political value in calling people out racially? Why use that?
Look, I think that Senator Warren was very offensive when she lied about something specifically to advance her career. I don't understand why no one's asking about that question and why that isn't constantly covered.
Because she's a progressive liberal from Massachusetts. So she could claim to be African American and disabled and in a wheelchair, faking that, and they'd make an excuse for her. Because she's pro-abort, she checks all the boxes of liberal viewpoints, and they'll do anything to protect her, just like they're protecting Al Franken. Most of them are still protecting Al Franken. Let's be very clear on that. And John Conyers' big punishment is, I have to step down from the ranking position on the banking committee. Or on the judiciary, whatever the heck it is. I don't know. I'm just never get out of my PJs lately. So that's his big punishment. He leaves ranking status on a major committee. So that's why Elizabeth Warren doesn't get questioned on this stuff. That's why she was never questioned. The fact that the people of Massachusetts elect this woman, who was responsible for this, in part responsible for this Dodd-Frank disaster and this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau of Democrats, which is what it is.
And that is likely why the president invoked her at all. I think so. Because, he'd sent Mike Mulcahy, what's his name? Mulvaney over there to that Consumer Protection Bureau to unseat the Obama appointee. And there was a big fracas about it. Now they're suing the federal government. Well, surely Elizabeth Warren, who founded that bureau, made it unaccountable to Congress or the people. Surely that was on his mind when he went into that Navajo code-talking event, and out popped Pocahontas.
No, well, they were just going crazy on this. And then to outdo the sheer, frothing frenzy in the press room yesterday, we had Mika Brzezinski step in on Morning Mika. Now we're calling it Morning Mika because she seems like she's kind of talking over Joe a lot, which she doesn't seem to appreciate. So on Morning Mika, this is how it went down.
When is there going to be a moment where she actually says the president misspoke?
Wasn't there a...
What's wrong with her? Why does she do that job? How can she look in the mirror every day and say, I am doing the right thing for the American people? Because you are not. This is horrible.
She was almost feigning tears there. Was this recorded after Thanksgiving and they pretended?
Yeah, no, I think this was actually live.
It went on and on. No, it gets funnier as it goes. Keep playing.
This is our president, and that is the spokesperson for the president of the United States.
It is.
Sitting there defending his racism, his bigoted language, his stupidity. This is where we are.
No, you're in a Manhattan studio, comfy with your latte and your handlers. This is where we are. This is where we are. These people sat by and did nothing as the Obama people were going after James Rosen. They were hacking into Cheryl Atkinson's computer, 2 journalists. They were trashing Fox and talk radio day in and day out, ridiculing websites, ridiculing the Tea Party, taking their sweet time for 501c3 applications from conservative groups, much more so, by the way, than any liberal groups. You had Lois Lerner taking the 5th. These people sat by and, this is a man of great courage. And Michelle Obama look at the grace with which she handles herself. By the way, the attacks on Melania never stop. They never stop. We're going to be doing a big thing on that on LifeZet today. So make sure to log on to LifeZet on that and racializing the royals, which is another thing we're going to get to today. Because it turns out that you can't just get engaged and have the approval of your parents and have some rules bent for you because there are old royal rules about marrying Catholics and divorcees, and that went out the door with Camilla, right? And her hat collection. And so that went out the door there. But you can't just get engaged and have a royal wedding. Now it has to be all about race. So we're going to get into that topic. But the Morning Joe people were beating the drum on race. And I will say this, and I'm going to say this tonight on the Ingraham Angle. The people who are racializing every aspect of American life, they're not the conservatives. They're calling out the phonies who are doing it. Elizabeth Warren is the one using ethnicity to get ahead. Because apparently she didn't think she could get a position at Harvard unless she checked the Indian box. Donald Trump isn't the one using race, contrary to what they were saying, and I hope we have more clips, James, from Morning Joe. They went through the litany of racial offenses, apparently, that they think Donald Trump is guilty of.
I don't think this is about Elizabeth Warren any more than I think his battle against NFL players is about Colin Kaepernick. It's not. It's about anybody who's not a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Everything's coded.
Is that a double entendre because of the code talker?
Maybe he's the code talker now.
Everything's coded. But do you see that this is... It's exactly the opposite of what they're claiming. Donald Trump's calling out Elizabeth Warren, not because Donald Trump has disrespect for Native Americans. Donald Trump's honoring them in a ceremony. And yet you could argue that I wouldn't have said what he said. I wouldn't have. I think it just distracts everyone. But he does, again, and I don't think he's even meaning to do this when he does it. He does draw them out for their own racial obsession. They're the ones obsessed with race. They're the ones who always drop the race card when it comes to opposing Donald Trump. Oppose his policies, oppose his tax reform, oppose his foreign policy, oppose his deregulatory efforts, oppose what he's doing on NAFTA and holding China accountable. Go ahead. That's fine. That's actually interesting. This is just revealing the lack of substance in the Democrat liberal playbook. There is nothing except war against women, war against blacks, Black Lives Matter, da-da-da-da-da. That's all they have. War against women's reproductive rights. But do you see there's no there? That's all they have. They always go back to it. It's like their security blanket. So in a way, it's their racial security blanket, their ethnic security blanket. It's all they can go to.
I'm, the last to go out and throw the race card down on the table, but it is so obvious he attacks the NFL because, and we saw it also with the UCLA players. It's always sort of poking and prodding and making jokes and making attacks at the expense of people who are not white.
Your reaction to this, 855-40-LAURA. Do you think Donald Trump has a racist bone in his body? Or is he calling out people who are the real race hucksters? The people who cling to affirmative action. Those who pretend they're something that they're not. And, again, Bret Hume said this last night, and he got a lot of garbage for it on Twitter. You could say it's ungracious at a ceremony for the code talkers to even mention Elizabeth Warren. It's about them. It's not about her. It's not, and I said this last night, it's not 2020. It's not 2016. This is a new time. And it's almost, he kind of steps on his own message a little bit there, and I don't think it's necessary. You can go after Elizabeth Warren in a different forum. I wouldn't do it here. It'd be funny if one of the code talkers brought her up. Now, that would be funny. But I don't think it serves much of a purpose. But the reaction to him and what he said is extremely revealing. Do you think Donald Trump said what he said because, as Joe Scarborough said, anyone who is not a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant, by the way, he married a Catholic, Trump, is a problem? 855-40-LAURA. The attacks on Melania. We're going to get to that. Because, again, Michelle Obama walked on water, was the most beautiful, gracious, most lovely, most generous first lady who ever stepped onto the White House, into the White House Red Room. And meanwhile, Melania Trump can't seem to do anything right, according to the press. They are loath to give her any credit for anything she does. I thought she was incredibly beautiful and wonderful yesterday at that White House decorating, revealing the decorations yesterday with the kids. But apparently only Michelle can do that and actually get any positive press. We played a soundbite last night on our show that I didn't see on most mainstream media outlets. 855-40-LAURA. She looked like an angel. Don't go away.
Cherokee people, Cherokee tribe.
I call her Pocahontas, and that's an insult to Pocahontas.
My Aunt Bee remarked that her father, my papa, had high cheekbones like all of the Indians do.
Thanks to my wonderful sponsors and your support, I'm glad to say that we can provide this podcast at no cost to you at all. As a loyal listener of my program, please consider testing our sponsors because they're the ones who actually cover the cost to produce this daily show. So if you're a dog lover like I am, how about giving your dog, your best friend, a fresh, healthy, and nutritious diet? When dogs eat well, they live longer and happier lives. I'm here to tell you about NomNomNow.com, which cooks the world's best dog food. It's made fresh in the USA and delivered right to your door every week. Nom Nom Now's customized recipes cook fresh in our kitchen, delivering healthy nutrition you can actually see. Switch to Nom Nom Now and your dog will have more energy, a shinier, softer coat, and a longer, better life. Nom Nom Now really is the best food for your best friend. And right now you can save 50% on your first 2 orders of fresh, healthy dog food when you use my code Laura at NomNomNow.com. That's code Laura and save 50% on your first 2 orders. NomNom now.com. And code word LAURA.
The Pocahontas claim wasn't actually the worst thing that happened in that scene. The scene was actually made worse by the portrait of Andrew Jackson behind the event. The man who signed the Indian Removal Act of 1830, responsible for the Trail of Tears, who used the skin of Indians for whips. I mean, so this is part of a kind of theater. In some ways, the theater of bigotry that's speaking directly to his base.
Eddie Glauer, what's his name? Glaude. He's a very attractive spokesperson for his left-wing views on MSNBC. I mean, he's good at what he does, but he's just obsessing over now Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson's he was a populist president, and he's the portrait's hanging in the Oval Office. So he actually, I guess, is saying that they purposely chose that positioning in the Oval Office to send more of that code talker message to the country.
The founder of the Democratic Party.
Right. Remember, the Democrats were the ones responsible for the racial discrimination. Let's go to the lines. 855-40-LAURA. Let's go to Denise in Indiana. Miss Denise.
Good morning, Laura.
Hey.
First of all, thanks for all you do. I love your show. You're my favorite radio talk host. I just want to make one quick comment. There were a group of 4 of us that went to D.C. for a vacation in October. Couldn't get tickets to the White House, so we thought we would do the second best thing and go to the Trump Hotel for a glass of Trump wine, which was fabulous, I might add. And I just wanted to make a quick comment. We looked over everyone that was employed there in the lobby, in the bar. We saw 2 Caucasians. Everyone else was of a different ethnicity, and
welcome to the hospitality world in the United States of America. I mean, I know Indiana is a lot different, but in D.C., not this Trump hotel, it's every hotel. And this is something I've been speaking about for, 2 decades. These are jobs that Americans did and did well. They were entry-level jobs that help support families and get people started in the workplace. I don't know the backstory on that, but I certainly don't, I wouldn't hazard to say that, Donald Trump is hiring illegal immigrants? If he did, that's really stupid. I doubt that. But there are a lot of foreigners in Washington, D.C., a lot of immigrants, and they came here legally. And they've completely changed the demographic makeup of the electorate. And that's why Virginia is voting Democrat now. That's a big part of it, at least. Maryland is lost, as far as I can tell. 855-40-LAURA. Melanie Morgan up next.
Looking on as President Trump used that slur, that particular insult to Native Americans, this portrait of President Andrew Jackson, added to the Oval Office by President Trump, who is such a fan of his predecessor, he laid a wreath on Jackson's tomb earlier this year. Andrew Jackson famously signed the Indian Removal Act, which allowed white settlers to drive Native Americans off their land by force, if necessary, starting a brutal migration known as the Trail of Tears.
And was a Democrat. Don Lemon, did he close the Wikipedia page on that before he did the read last night about the Trail of Tears? 855-40-LAURA. In just a moment, we're going to get to Melanie Morgan. Donald Trump, the racist. They tried it before with his attack on the Hispanic judge. When he talked about that. Kaepernick. They've been hitting this drum on Trump the racist. Trump the racist. All about turnout for 2018.
And the white supremacist moniker attached to Bannon.
Oh, right.
Bannon.
Of course, they were demonizing Steve Bannon as a white supremacist. Let's go to Danny in North Carolina. We got Melanie Morgan we're going to get to as well. Danny.
Laura, I think he just President Trump makes it really easy for people to pile on and beat this racism drum. I was called a racist myself when I didn't agree with something that Barack Obama did. I really think if he just thick-skins it, that he'll be perfectly fine. I mean, that's all they got to report on is race right now. There's nothing substantial for them to really go for except for that. So I think he's doing a great job.
Well, I can say this, that it is patently obvious that they have nothing else to offer. The economy is soaring. The news now on these trade negotiations on the NAFTA front, illuminating. I'll be getting into that later on. Luis Gutierrez, the good news I told you I would bring you, the rabid open borders zealot, Luis Gutierrez, who I have battled over the years. All I can say is who outlasted whom in the battle. He's picking up his marbles and going home. He's not running for re-election. We don't know why. But he was most famous for saying that he represented the interests of illegal immigrants. We love that soundbite. So Congressman Luis Gutierrez is not running for re-election. Politico reporting that. Kelly in North Carolina, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
I wanted to make a comment about him not being a racist based on the election proved what Donald Trump does well. He defines situations and people, and if you're connected to something, there's no taboo there if that really is the shoe that fits. And I think he does that very well. Otherwise, he would have never, ever been able to wipe out an icon like Hillary Clinton. He's very good at what he does, and that's why we're winning in trade, and that's why we're winning at positioning our country again in the world as a great nation.
And I appreciate that. The Trail of Tears that Don Lemon was talking about, and he's a veritable Encyclopedia Britannica, wasn't he? The complaining about the massive racism that, of course, is you saw in MSNBC with that Joy Reid. Remember when she said that rural Americans, and said this, I guess this was just written about today in the Blaze.
Said it the other day.
Rural Americans their voting power is a threat to our democracy because basically they're white. They're white and conservative. She continues to be racial mongering her way to the top at NBC, and she hardly gets not even getting a slap on the wrist. She gets promoted. Remember that ESPN gal who, with her comments, she got sidelined for a while, but Joy Reid over the weekend tweeted that the rural Americans is a core threat to our democracy. Is that racist? You can only be a racist if you're white and you're a Republican. 855-40-LAURA. Melanie Morgan is our friend at Media Equalizer. She does that with Brian Mahoney. And interesting effort to re-educate Americans about the trail of victims that Democrats have left behind. When you look at the list of the Hollywood political and media types, just released in the last 4 weeks, the news about their accusations. Again, we don't know how many of them are true or not. But when you look at the entirety of that list, whether it's Glenn Thrush or Mark Halperin or Harvey Weinstein or John Conyers or Frank, and they're overwhelmingly Democrat. And of course, starting with the biggest victimizer of all, Bill Clinton. Joining us now, Melanie Morgan. Hey, Mel, how are you?
I'm great. I'm here at San Francisco International Airport right now, Laura, where I'm going to travel across several time zones to join folks in Washington, D.C. I heard you mention a moment ago that the Democrats are relitigating a lot of our history. Well, interesting. They don't want to relitigate or revisit what happened in 1998 when William Jefferson Clinton was impeached. But that's exactly what we're going to do in Washington, and we're bringing with us some very strong and powerful women. You probably recognize their names, although a couple of generations of Americans don't. Kathleen Willey, Juanita Broderick. We're going to be having Dr. Alveda King and Paula Jones, who is successful in creating the opportunity for impeachment because of an $850,000 settlement against Bill Clinton for, guess what, the issue of sexual harassment.
Well, and so this story, each of their stories is compelling in its own right. A lot of the Democrats now, Melanie, are coming forward and saying, well, we should have taken this more seriously. You had Kirsten Gillibrand, senator from New York, who clearly has 2020 ambitions. She comes out and she says, look, he should have resigned. Others are following suit. They want to do the cleanup act and try to expunge the sin of sexual harassment from their ranks, perhaps, before the next election cycle. What's your take on that?
Well, here's my take on this. We're coming to have a press conference tomorrow with the very accusers of Clinton who in 1998 were ridiculed, they were mocked, they were slandered, they were physically intimidated, they were threatened by liberal Democrats. So now they have an opportunity, if they really think that this is the time to make apologies and to get themselves on the right side of history, to stand with us in calling for the resignation of Al Franken, John Conyers, and maybe even Joe Barton. But what we need to do for certain is make sure that these secret slush funds that total $17 million of taxpayer money that have gone to pay off these victims stops. And we are also going to demand hashtag show us the list. This is very important for us to know who is involved in these secret payoffs, how much money did they get, are they still engaged in this behavior, is it repetitive behavior? These are all questions that we are going to demand the answers to. You know, it's kind of funny, Laura, because Al Franken, whom I went public with my own story about a week and a half ago, alleging a very abusive treatment and almost stalking and harassing treatment. I've been whitewashed from that story. He's offered a non-apology apology that the media minions
we had
were
John
covering
Ingraham.
for him.
Yeah, we had John there. We were actually the first show, not to try to take credit over you there, Melanie, but we were the first show that brought this list and the shush fund in cable to public attention, and I demanded this list be released, whatever it was, 2 weeks ago. And I'm glad everybody's on the trail now on this. But you know, this most of these congressmen and congresswomen, they didn't even know it existed. So we'll be tracking what you're doing in Washington. We wish you the best of luck. We hope these women who themselves have been abused have the strength to make their own case. And if they're waiting for an apology from Bill Clinton, they're going to be waiting for a long time. So the way we deal with this story is important, and the smart way we deal with it, the important. I mean, we can all grandstand about this, but what we need are actual results, and educating a new generation of Americans about what the Democratic Party has really stood for, the American founding, what the Clintons and the Obamas put up with and facilitated over the years. The entire Democrat Party has sexual harassment blame on their hands because they covered for these people for decades and decades and decades, and that's how it went down. Melanie, we love the Media Equalizer. We really appreciate your joining us. 855-40-LAURA. We'll link up the Media Equalizer site on lauraingraham.com. Also on Facebook, you should follow them. A lot more to get to, including we're jammed on the lines now because of the attacks on Melania Trump. We're going to get to that. Vanity Fair saying she never wanted to be First Lady. Basically, she's miserable, and she was ill-suited for the job in the first place. But remember, Michelle is still, is still the reigning princess, of the deity upon high. Because Michelle's on the top of the Christmas tree, isn't she now? She's on the tree. She is the angel. 855-40-LAURA. We'll get to that and your calls. Don't go away.
Good night, until we meet again.
I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. I am confident now, even more so than I have been throughout the last year, that this nightmare presidency of Donald John Trump will end prematurely and end soon, and I am thus also confident that this is the correct moment to end this series of commentaries.
My heart, good night.
I didn't even know Keith Olbermann was doing a series of commentaries. Did you?
He was over at GQ. For all those GQ web servers, you could have been listening to Keith Olbermann all year, Laura. All year. Your subscription must have lapsed.
I had no idea that he was even doing any commentary whatsoever.
Apparently no one else did either, which is why now is the appropriate time to stop this series of commentaries.
I thought it was like Mika and Joe, and they said they were retooling their radio show about 10 years ago that flopped on WABC in New York. We're taking a pause to retool. We'll be back.
Yeah, well.
How does never sound to you? No, that's just...
And he says, it wasn't scandal, it's not health, it's just, I did what I had to do. He's like Frank Sinatra, apparently, at this point.
Is he going back to sports, where he keeps getting fired?
There's no indication of what he's doing, but he is not doing political commentary
anymore. He has one of the largest
collections
of sports memorabilia, personal collections in the world.
Really?
Yeah, sports memorabilia, like worth I've seen some of it. Ton of money. He's a really smart investor in that. Collectibles can be extremely lucrative. But I don't think he sells any of it. He just collects, like he has like the original Ebbets Field seats from the old Ebbets Field and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I think he was really talented in sports commentary. I mean, he's an encyclopedia of knowledge. He was really talented. But the politics it was all too angry and not fun at all. 855-40-LAURA. Do we have Lori in Nevada?
We do.
Let's go to Lori. Go ahead, my friend.
Hi, Laura. Congratulations.
Oh, I just lost you. Are you still there, Lori?
No, I'm here in the mountains.
Speak up, and put that put that phone to your ear, because I can't hear you, babe.
It is in my ear. I'm going through Mount Rose. I'm so sorry. Congratulations. I don't think Trump has a racist bone in his body.
Can't hear you, babe. We just can't hear you. We got to. Sorry. Call back when you're not on a mountain road. Sounds fun though. Did you do any shopping yesterday, Raymond? Any?
I did one Cyber Monday deal, and then I realized I could have done it on Giving Tuesday because there were no rebates on the thing I bought. So there was no rebates. Books are not rebated, and there was an ornament I got for one of my kids, and that was not rebated either.
I find it all confusing.
You know what it is? I've now realized
one big scam.
Well, we don't need anything, really.
No, we don't.
You don't really need anything.
We do need Ovation shampoo because that helps my hair.
Yeah.
That's a good gift because you use it.
Well, pass a bottle. But where's my gift set? Come on. Bring on the gift set.
All right, well, those are coming.
I need an Ovation. But I do think we worry too much about things.
Stuff.
And if you get something that means something to somebody else and it's quirky and fun and unique, that's what I'm looking for this year. But I'm not going to go out and just buy.
I always do the frame photos for special people.
That's a nice thing.
Because it just takes you back in time, and I know sometimes you have too many frames too, and that gets annoying. I'm trying to get rid of stuff still. Just declutter. If I could give anyone advice, young couples, do not collect a lot of junk. All it does is weigh you down. All it does is take up your time. All it does is make your life more complicated. Simplicity. That's why the trend in homes now is smaller and simple. Mm-hmm. The simpler life is, the better life is. It's really true.
It is true.
Whether it's the TVs that I have in my house, or by the way, speaking of, not to jump around here, guess who was downstairs in the basement with a can of Duncan Hines frosting and a spoon? And
not your dog.
It wasn't Junkyard.
Oh, pity. I would have filmed it and put it on your website.
Nico was downstairs. We found a can of frosting.
He was just eating out the whole can of frosting.
Oh, he's just making himself right at home in that frosting. Yeah, just a spoon and.
Like Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, I just treated it. First of all, I can't even believe I have that chemical-filled stuff in my house. I don't know
that's all. It's like lard and sugar.
Awful.
That's all it is.
Awful. But you can hide stuff. You could put it up on the top shelf and put some camouflage in front of it. He has a sugar detector. Sugar, I'm really convinced that sugar is one of the worst things that we can ingest.
America's greatest addiction.
He is a sugar addict.
Your Healthy Radio Addiction starts now.
Power to the people!
The Laura Ingraham Show.
I woke up in love this morning. I woke up in love this morning.
Valerie Jarrett, President Trump, Pocahontas, go.
Speechless.
Yeah.
Truly speechless. But I tell you what I try to do every day is
Please
to think
help
about.
Because I had a
because I'm
meltdown
still
this morning.
optimistic. Is that we have to think about what can we each do. Thank heavens for you in the press who are really holding everyone's feet to the fire. I try to look towards the rest of the country and
so
not
you basically
focus.
don't watch TV or go online or watch any news.
I try to just do a little bit of it. It's not good for my health, but most of my energy, as you said, is helping President Obama with his foundation.
Ah, my little darling, it is love at first sight, is it not? No?
Well, Valerie Jarrett is singing her love song to MSNBC, and I don't want to turn the show into MSNBC Review. We only use the sound bites to illustrate the close relationship that the non-Fox, non-fair media have with the Obamas, the Clintons, and even the sexual harassers who continue to pad around Congress, being denied of only their committee chairmanship or other privileges, and being told, talked about like this, they're so brave because Al Franken actually, he's come out and said he feels terrible about what he's done. Byron York has a piece out today, which we'll post on lauraingraham.com, where he says, in fact, when you really look at what Al Franken has said, he's really not admitting to anything. He's really very little, and he's not really coming to terms with the accusations against him. So you can say what you want about Roy Moore and what happened 39 years ago, but Al Franken's just giving these kind of amorphous comments, and he actually had a press conference on, was it Wednesday of last week?
Yeah.
Where he came out, and I don't know if we have any of that sound, but he came out and it was kind of.
He apologized for offending people, basically, but then doesn't agree to anything. He doesn't admit to any of his wrongdoing, and so if you can't admit to wrongdoing, you really can't apologize, and that's where it ends up. And people are like, well, wait a minute. These women are saying you did this. Well, that wasn't my recollection, and I know the picture was just a joke, and I don't remember putting hands where they shouldn't have been, and I don't have any recollection of that. So he's basically stonewalling.
Well, and he's allowed to stonewall. He's allowed to do this because of who he is. Bill Clinton was allowed to do what he did year after year, and yes, he was impeached, and yes, he lost his bar license to practice law because he lied under oath. However, he continued to appear at every major fundraiser, every Democrat convention, started a global foundation, jets around the world to this day on private planes paid for by the glitterati and the elites in business and the entertainment industry and sports. And Juanita Broderick credibly alleges that he raped her. Kathleen Willey, Paula Jones, all these women do count. They did count back then, and they do count today. But I'm just not going to sit here and say, isn't it? Oh, the Democrats are really coming to grips now, all these years later they're coming to grips with this. And Nancy Pelosi yesterday said you have to look at the full context of someone's contributions. The full context. We have that soundbite. I'd like to play that again, James. They never talked about the full context of Clarence Thomas. Second African American ever be put on the Supreme Court, came from abject poverty to rise through the academic world, to working at Monsanto, to working at the education department, to working at the EEOC, and then going on to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, went to Yale Law School, worked his way up from nothing And they never gave him credit for anything because of one woman's leaked FBI interview report that was done to stop a conservative black man from getting on the Supreme Court. They never gave him any context.
And she's still running. Anita Hill was this past weekend.
Anita Hill has done nothing except live off of her accusations against a man who she repeatedly invited to speak at her own university. Let me say, if someone did that to me, and her accusations are kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, there was nothing.
Like dumb.
It wasn't like he pinned her down or
they were both single.
Horrible.
They were both single, and it was compared to what they're talking about today, it's like nothing. But can you imagine inviting someone to speak at your university where you're teaching, if you actually think you were under some pressure to go out with somebody in the work? Why would you invite him to speak? Why would you keep following up and writing letters? Why wouldn't there be a trail of women who make similar accusations? And by the way, there were not. So there was no context and no look at the full scope of someone's life kind of stuff back then. The left is still slaying or trying to slay Justice Thomas, and he outlasted all of them. And he has been a phenomenal Supreme Court justice in spite of their calumny and their unfair late hit accusation with no corroboration and no trail of other victims. There were 125 women who came forward and said, we support this man, we worked with him, we've known him for 25 years. We never saw anything like this. Anita Hill never told us anything like this. In fact, she was desperate to get advanced in her career. And when she didn't, she got angry. Believe me, I'm following this very closely because I was supposed to clerk for Justice Thomas back then. He was going to clerk on the Court of Appeals. Then he gets confirmed and he goes to the Supreme Court. But I don't think I missed 1 minute of that hearing. So I hear about this and I think, you got to be kidding me.
Well, that is the other shoe that's still to drop, the backlash against these kind of the unsubstantiated accusations, which do drive men, in most cases, from their positions and out of the marketplace. They can't work again. Now, some of these guys, look, they're guilty. They did this stuff. But I can't imagine all of these have veracity, all of these accusations.
By the way, Donald Trump has tweeted out support for his wife in the face of a Vanity Fair hit job that said that she told him that she did not want to become the nation's first lady come hell or high water. Melania, our great and very hardworking First Lady, Donald Trump says, who truly loves what she is doing, always thought that if you run, you will win, Trump wrote on Twitter. She would tell everyone that. No doubt he will win. I also felt I would win or I wouldn't have run, and the country's doing great. So that's what he responds.
Well, and the First Lady's office last night said that these were vicious smears, this is nonsense, and they're unsubstantiated falsehoods.
She feels privileged to be the First Lady of the United States. And again, Michelle Obama could do no wrong. A turnip pops up out of the ground behind the White House at the White House garden. A 1 carrot is harvested, and they treat it like it's the Garden of Eden. When Michelle Obama had those poor Park Service employees.
That's right. When you say a turnip sprouted out of the ground, it was planted during the hours of 1 to 4 a.m.
That was revealed in the Obama diaries.
But that's all true.
They were planted by the National Park Service to give the veneer of, the First Lady's working in the garden, and she'd slap on those gardening togs just for the photos, and to bring the poor kids out.
The kids would come out and spread seeds, and they would be covered up, and then magically within like a week, suddenly you had a bumper crop, fully grown pumpkins, and I mean it was like Dole Farms over there.
Can you imagine how thriving that garden is? Just how much food grew from a few little seeds and some plantings?
And millions of dollars in heavy equipment and a backhoe and about 50 Park Service.
I'd plowed over that garden. I wish Melania would plowed that thing over, and I'd put it back to tennis court or whatever they used to have there.
Bocce ball court.
Bocce. I love bocce ball. Jarts. Remember jarts? Lawn jarts. You could do. There are all sorts of games and just fun you could have on the White House lawn. And you could have some pots with tomatoes in it. Those little tomato pots. Those would be fine. But the idea that we are running a country. This is not This is not a plantation, okay? Where we're now redoing history, and we got off the plantation. We don't need to go back to the plantation. We're not farmers. This is not a farming community in D.C. This is a government, okay? But remember when one of the kids, when they were doing the poll of the kids that came, there were a bunch of kids. It was sweet. They're from D.C. and they show up and they were talking about vegetables. It's like, who loves broccoli? And the one kid raised up, who loves asparagus? No one raises their hand of the little kids. And she goes, I'm going to take your shovel cookie away. Remember? Remember? And they took that audio off the White House website.
Struck the audio.
Because they gave little shovel cookies, a gardening shovel cookies to the kids.
Frosted cookies.
Yeah, cookies. Because those grew out of the garden, too. And then I'm going to take a shovel cookie away. Remember, she grabs a cookie.
Let's hear it for vegetables.
Yeah!
Oh.
855-40-LAURA. Why is it that the press is so nasty to Melania? Is it just because of Trump? Or is there something else about her that they dislike intensely? See, you could make it's not just race. It's not because she's white and because she's beautiful and because she's a former model, and she has an accent. They're making fun of her accent. All the things that if we did about anyone else would be run off of, radio and TV. But they made fun of her accent when she did the Lord's Prayer.
Now they're even trashing her Christmas decor, which I have to tell you.
Oh, it's spectacular.
Now, later in the week, I'll see it in person, but it is beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
And now there are also the tall tales you see around some, even conservative media. Oh, Trump has brought the nativity back to the White House. Well, that's not true. The nativity has been in the East Room since 1967. That is there every year. But it is set off so beautifully this year. I mean, you can tell she really put time into choosing different decor for every room. They didn't just slap up trees and put, back in the Clinton days, the condoms and whatever else they were hanging on those trees that I can't mention on a family show, but other unmentionables. But there is a sense of tradition. In fact, the theme is traditions over the last 200 years in the White House.
Heaven forbid we have any left.
And the place really is spectacular. But they're trashy. It's gauche. It looks like, a Trump hotel. I mean, Vanity Fair's at it again. They can't.
They can't stand it. What they can't stand is that she's gracious. And she supports her husband.
Also, where's the television special? Remember we had the prime time Brian Williams walkthrough on NBC?
Well, I want to do the walkthrough. Maybe they should let me do the walkthrough.
Yeah, well, maybe you're the only one that may be allowed to do it, because remember that it used to be Rockefeller Center tree and then the Obama Christmas.
Oh, no, and
they'd walk through and bow and pet the dog.
And then
let me show you the gingerbread. And she'd walk in.
The gingerbread.
Remember they had gingerbread dogs.
There was something about they got rid of one of the traditions. What was it? Was it the gingerbread house? And was it remember there was something about a tradition that they removed. Now I'm trying to remember what it was. It was either the gingerbread house was it a kale house? Was it made out of kale? Or I don't remember what it was.
I don't remember either.
But there was something. We didn't go for 8 years. We didn't go to the White House they didn't invite us.
It was like the shepherds waiting for the call. Waiting for the star to rise.
By the way, do we have the audio of the kids seeing Melania yesterday, James? Do you have the audio of what they were saying about Melania, that she looked angelic? We'll play that afterward. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA, your calls. Why is it that the media are so especially nasty toward Melania Trump? She's being treated far differently than any other first lady by the establishment media. Of course, by NBC, CBS, they are. It just kills them to say anything positive about her, and her approval numbers are very good. People seem to like her a lot, and she's quiet. She doesn't go on Ellen and do push-ups. She doesn't do that kind of stuff that Michelle did. She doesn't fancy herself that type of celebrity flotus, but they dislike her intensely. Why? 855-40-LAURA. A lot more to get to on your healthy and festive radio addiction.
Earth angel, will you be mine, my darling dear?
You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. The kids rushing up to Melania yesterday. It's a little hard to hear, but let's listen. You seriously look like an angel. Oh, it's worth hearing that, even though it's kind of hard to make out. You seriously look like an angel. The kids just flocked to her.
Yeah, she did look like a tree
She
topper.
did.
She had that white kind of belt,
That was an interesting
bell-sleeved outfit with a gold belt.
First of all, she can't look bad in anything she wears. She's just blessed with the body and the face for clothes, and she puts makeup on, but it's not a ton of makeup. She put some makeup on. Michelle did too. You have to look good for the cameras, and that's fine. 855-40 Laura. Let's go to the lines, and then we're going to talk about how. Well, there's got a couple of other topics we have to hit. Virginia and North Carolina. Virginia, welcome.
Hey, I believe the media trashes Melania because she's everything they are not. She's beautiful, she's talented, she brings honor and grace to the White House, and that is how I feel. Thank you so much.
Oh, God bless you. We appreciate it. Let's go to Prissy in Texas. Priscilla, go ahead.
Hey, this Pocahontas comment I find so comical. It is, everybody just needs to get some thick skin. They're behaving like they're fourth graders on the playground. Everybody has gotten so worked up about what you said, how you looked at me, how it offends me. It's just time out, get over it, and do the job we've asked you to do. We don't want to hear about it on the news. We want real news reported, real facts. I don't care about their opinion, what they think about it.
All right, I appreciate it. 855-40 Laura. I think the Elizabeth Warren comment that the president made yesterday was in a way, ungracious, but in a way genius. Could be both things. So I agree with kind of what Britt Hume said. It didn't really need to go there in this code talker thing. It was off point. But it does remind us of see, he was with the real deal. He was with the real deal heroes. Indian heroes. By the way, most of them want to be called Indians in that room. They are real heroes. They didn't use their ethnicity to get ahead. They just did the right thing for the country in wartime. That probably struck the president just in the moment. And I mean, I don't know what you might be going back and reading the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau champions. She was the champion, along with Barney Frank, of this new bureau that now has two agency heads because they're in court and they're fighting out whether it's Mick Mulvaney or Richard Cordray's deputy, this woman Lori Glesson, who wants to take over as head of that ridiculous, preposterous agency. So maybe he had that on his mind and it popped out of his mouth. I mean, I don't know, but I would have said Pocahontas again. A lot to get to. Stay with us.
The Serial Killer Podcast, hosted by me, Thomas Warburg Thune, is the podcast dedicated to serial killers, who they were, what they did, and how. Join me as I sit down bi-weekly to bring you, dear listener, into the dark land of serial murder and psychopathy. The show goes into graphic detail on the most infamous and lesser-known serial killers from around the world, with each episode covering one unique serial killer. So far, the show has covered serial killer superstars, such as BTK, Jeffrey Dahmer, and the Yorkshire Ripper, and lesser-known killers, such as Elias Abuelazam and Anatoly Onoprienko. Be advised, this show is not for children, as it takes you deep into the twisted world of ultimate evil. You can find me exclusively at podcastone.com or on the new Podcast One app. Also, don't forget to rate and review on Apple Podcasts.
What did you experience with Representative Conyers?
Over time, my relationship with Mr. Conyers deteriorated as he became increasingly abusive to me. He would scream at me and berate me. There were other occasions where other things happened. And then there was the other instance where I was called to go into his office and he was walking around in his underwear.
That's Melanie Sloan, who's a former Conyers staffer. Well, he's 88 years old, and he's in the U.S. Congress 52 years later. I mean, none of this makes any sense. But apparently he's been disoriented at times. We have other senators who were there, not accused of sexual harassment, but have been disoriented, walking in the wrong direction. We heard these horrific stories about Thad Cochran, should not be in the Senate any longer. And yet we return these people to power. We spend tens of millions of dollars, the Republican Party, to return people to power who have been there way past their expiration date. And it's preposterous. 855-40-LAURA. By the way, the Ovation Hair gift sets, we'll be starting our giveaway for those tomorrow. So remember that. And they're awesome. You can actually just put them under the tree, a little bow on them. You don't even need to wrap them. They look beautiful. And they're extending their Cyber Monday sale beyond, of course, yesterday to today, but that's it. And you get 60% off retail, and it's an amazing 7-piece gift set, and you're going to love it. Everything from the flagship Ovation Cell Therapy to the conditioning and shampoo for every hair type and all the hair care products. It's just a wonderful gift set. You will love it. You actually get another 15% off and free shipping. This is the lowest they go, my friends, and they sell out every year. They did last year, the year before. Guaranteed, or your money back. All you do is go to ovationhair.com, ovationhair.com, very easy, and select Laura Ingraham in the survey at checkout. Again, ovationhair.com, cyber savings end today. So make sure to be all over that. Joining us now, I'm delighted he's with us, along with your calls, Angelo Codavia. He's a senior fellow at the Claremont Institute, spent a bunch of years in the Senate, and wrote an interesting piece for AmericanGreatness.com about sex and power on the Hill. He was there for, I guess, 8 years as a staffer. You see a lot when you're working in government, and I remember being in the White House and riding up on the West Wing elevator. I was 22, and I remember Strom Thurmond checking me out, and he must have been 90. I don't know how old he was. Like
you're looking good there, Laura.
Yeah. He said, well, I got some pretty fillies in the White House working. No, we got some pretty fillies. His staffer was so, his staffer was so horrified. I just started laughing. It's like, whatever. I was like, just move it on out. Move it on out, old Senator Thurmond. It was hilarious. But, people are, this is what they're talking about now. It's a lot easier than figuring out what President Xi is doing with Kim Jong-un Cabbage Patch. So it's a lot easier.
I remember covering Strom Thurmond many years ago. He was reading a speech from the well, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, today we have this wonderful piece of legislation. You would have to flip the page to go on. The words were so big. It took 3 sentences. 5 pages to get the 3 sentences.
Remember that horrible back and forth on was it the gay marriage issue or something? He did. Is there anything I can do to make you all normal? Remember that?
It was a hearing.
It was a hearing. That was horrible. They made you all normal? What? That was. They did that I think they did that on SNL. It was bad. It was bad. Joining us now, Angelo Codavia. Angelo, how you doing? Good to talk to you, my friend.
Good to be with you.
I got to speak up. You sound like you're under a blanket or something, so speak up.
No, I'm not under a blanket.
Well, you can't hear you, so I don't know what you're doing or what kind of phone you have, but sell it on eBay today. I can't hear people. And I don't need an ear trumpet. I just can't hear it. Raymond said for me to turn up my volume, but everything else sounds fine. So, all right,
you're
Angelo,
fine.
Give us a sense. From your experience on Capitol Hill, you wrote about this in your piece that we posted on our website, lauraingraham.com. Is any of this surprising to you, and do you believe that there is any way in some of these allegations that we're hearing to confirm, deny them, prove, disprove, unless the individual accused just fesses up?
Look, I am surprised only at the grossness of these things because my experience was that this was entirely unnecessary, that people in power, and not simply senators, but higher-ranking staffers, had all of the sex that they wanted. It was simply thrown at them. It was the women who were out there hunting, and the the folks in power were the hunted.
So explain how that looked. What the way
you
claim that women were dressing, acting.
No. What I was hearing is that these women were bragging that they had bedded this particular senator or this particular staffer, and were perfectly happy that they had done it because this had advanced their careers. Simple.
And so, did you hear or see of any type of harassment on the other side, or men or women in positions of power?
Absolutely not.
So you think none of that happens, or what?
No, look, if you have a John Conyers who's 88 years old, who obviously, or Trump, who doesn't know what he's doing, you can imagine that easily enough. But somebody who has any kind of attractiveness, or at least is not simply repulsive, is going to get advances by women who want to use him for their own purposes.
Raymond was pointing out something that Angela Lansbury said, the actress. Was it yesterday or on social media?
Yeah. During an interview.
And she's getting a lot of grief for it because she was talking about how women have traditionally...
She's basically saying that, look, there are two sides of the coin here, and that women have labored to make themselves attractive, and they go out of their way to make themselves attractive. And she says we have to own up to the fact that women since time immemorial have gone out of their way to make themselves attractive, and unfortunately it's backfired on us, and this is where we are today. And I mean, I think to take it a step further, it's more than just looking attractive. In some cases, the wares are out on the shelf, so
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's exactly it. It's the attractiveness is not mere vanity. In the workplace, it is often an asset. I mean, this is not exactly news. Plato was talking about that 2,500 years ago. This is not news.
Well, what is news, though, is the way that the government now is that there are actual government offices set aside to pay off those who might get embroiled or entrapped by these women, or you have predatory senators and representatives who are preying on these women who are in their charge.
No, I think that does happen too.
Again, the predation part sounds a bit manufactured to me. Look, the point that this campaign is making is that Republicans, primarily conservatives, are icons of deplorability, whereas we on the left, we are the icons of virtue, in one way or another. This is not so much about a double standard. It's about setting up rival icons, good and evil. You guys are on the evil side. We are on the virtuous side.
Well, I think that in the end, this is going to come back to really bite the Democrats. It already is.
You're right. It certainly is. Look, for example, if you want to talk about icons, the greatest icon of them all, of course, was Martin Luther King. Now, the U.S. government has all sorts of tapes of him, some of which were circulating on the Hill while I was there. I listened to those things. I mean, these things go so far beyond even Bill Clinton.
Written about. Yeah, this has been written about.
There's
nothing new. But,
I mean, all one would have
paragon
to do.
Of virtue either. Nobody is.
No. I mean, all that one would have to do would be to introduce a bill to unseal those tapes and then watch the reactions to unsealing those tapes.
Angelo Codavia, thank you so much for your perspective on this. And I think it is important, and Angela Lansbury's point here is, it's not unlike what other actresses have pointed out, older actresses. There was someone else in Britain who made this point and was piled on for saying it. I think it was someone in Britain. I'll rack my brain. Of saying, look, women use sex to get ahead, and men use sex as a weapon.
Right.
So both can be true, but
and both are wrong. And both are wrong. And that's the problem. You don't only have one wrong party in some of these cases. I mean, I know of a guy personally who he was having a long-term affair with a woman, but it was consensual. And then when she stopped getting what it was she wanted, then he became a problem. Then it became a power relationship, and he was misusing his power. Well, maybe there's an element of truth to that, but you know what? My great-grandmother used to always have that great line, it's a man's place to ask, it's a woman's place to say no. And there's a part of me that thinks that old wisdom holds true in many, many cases.
All right, we'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. A lot more to get to on your healthy radio addiction. Don't go away.
Nothing gets me angrier than when someone implies that I'm voting for Hillary Clinton because she's a woman. I feel so frustrated having to continuously explain that I'm an intelligent and engaged citizen, and it's not a fact I should have to state time and time again just to defend my voting for someone who happens to be female.
You are listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. That's the ever lovely Lena Dunham, who brought anal sex to
American televisions everywhere.
That was her claim to fame. Beware all ye who enter here.
She did say, I think I might be the voice of a generation, she says on the first episode of her girls show. And maybe she is and was, Laura.
Well, that's the piece written by Maureen Callahan. Good riddance to Lena Dunham in the New York Post. And again, Lena Dunham, a lot of people listening don't know who she is. Just trust us. Trust us, okay?
Lucky you.
It's gross. They're gross television, gross depictions, nothing sensual, attractive. It doesn't matter how you look, it matters how you conduct yourself. And of course, she's a big slobbering liberal, okay? Slobbers over every liberal politician. So she may be the first person to fabricate details of her alleged rape, then proclaim all women's claims need to be believed, and then publicly accuse a young woman of lying about having been raped. Finally, the star of the Creator Girls has been exposed as the empty vessel that she is. Girls, the show, was never the smart generational criticism Dunham always claimed. Really, it was just a smuttier, younger Sex and the City. Nor is there much daylight between Dunham and her shallow, entitled character, Hannah Hovrath, as she should have us believe. I think I might be the voice of a generation, yeah, she said in this. In appearance in her first episode, or at least the voice of a generation. That might be sadly true. She might be the voice of a generation, and that's a sad commentary on. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in the world of music tonight on the Ingraham Angle. You want to make sure to tune in. Also, the attacks on Melania Trump continue. Why? Why are they so obsessed about attacking her? To the extent where they were ridiculing her, her accent, and when she did the Lord's Prayer, they were, horrible people saying things about Barron Trump.
Now she can't even decorate.
Now she can't even decorate after the Obamas trashed the Oval Office with their stupid decorations. That was a horror show.
Remember they had that
taupe.
that rust-colored drape behind the
Trump
desk.
put it all back to Reagan. Trump made it back to look just like Reagan.
Back.
Yeah, Trump's like back to Reagan. We got the Reagan look back in the Trump Oval, as far as I could tell. How do you criticize the decoration? Who's criticizing
the White House looks like freshly fallen snow on the trees. Everything's glistening and sparkling.
Melania's dress is kind of a shepherd theme, too,
it is.
Isn't it?
No, she looks like she stepped out of a Vogue magazine shoot. I mean, and the whole thing looks color coordinated.
Or an angel, yeah. Or an angel, like on the top of a tree. That's why all the kids were like, you look like an angel.
I'm waiting for Roma Downey and Della Reese to step out from behind one of those trees.
Do you think I could get the people who put those lights to come and string my darn lights?
People didn't even realize
stringing lights.
She came down the Truman Staircase, and there were members of the Washington Ballet Company dancing the Nutcracker in the foyer. Look, you can see them. They're here. Oh. They're literally dancing. They're doing pas de deux.
My friend's daughter is in the Nutcracker. I wonder if she was in that.
But this was a spectacular entrance. This was not like
PBS filming it.
I don't know.
Is this a special because they would do it if it were Michelle, because
Of course, it would have been wall to wall with Brian Williams going.
Let's
talk about gingerbread.
What did Paula Zahn say about Michelle Obama? Remember that, James? You have that little clip, that oldie but goodie. Remember that? This is at the very beginning of the administration when they were literally covering Barack Obama going on a burger run. Remember Brian Williams
running
sitting in the back seat?
Hey, you want French fries?
All right. What do you want? All right, Jay Carney. What's your order?
Like the president runs out to get burgers for the staff.
Everybody. All right, you want fries with that? All right, I'll take care. All right, I'll take care of it.
Remember, they made a big deal. And then in the middle of the room, a bowl of apples. Do you eat these, sir? Well, yeah, I grab them, on the way in and out,
every now
in between
and then,
meetings.
With that Hawaiian accent of his. No, Brian Williams was.
He was so. Was sycophantic.
Sycophantic. Why don't they go and accompany Trump to the golf course and do the same thing in the back of the? Maybe I can do that. I want to go back in the back of. Trump's getting ready to golf. He could go back and cover that with the breathless anticipation that they covered. Raymond's showing me something else. Oh my goodness, the Nutcracker is.
I'm telling you, they were dancing the Nutcracker. We're going to post this. They were dancing the Nutcracker.
The only thing better would be Melania dancing with them.
I thought she was about to.
Oh my goodness, that's beautiful.
Is that unbelievable? This is in the grand foyer of the White House. I can't wait to see these.
All right,
decorations.
855-40-LAURA. We'll take a break. The attacks on Melania, we're going to hit it tonight. We have a great show. Do not miss it, 10 p.m. Eastern, Fox News.
Thanks for listening to the Laura Ingraham Show podcast. Download new episodes every week at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com.
Hey everybody, it's Heather Dubrow. Come join me for Heather Dubrow's World exclusively on Podcast One. We have so many fun conversations and great guests. Recently, Corinne Olympios from The Bachelor was here. Suzanne Summers, Matt Eisman, Tamara Judge, my buddy, was here. All kinds of really fun. Randy Jackson, Kellen Lutz. I didn't let him bite me. Join me every Friday on podcastone.com, the new Podcast One app, and subscribe to Apple Podcasts.
President Trump goes to Capitol Hill today to try to twist some arms. I'm Rita Foley with an AP News Minute. The president will be lobbying reluctant Republican senators on Capitol Hill today, trying to get them to vote yes on a GOP tax bill. Republican Senator Rob Portman is on the Finance Committee, and he says Republicans want tax reform.
They all want to get to yes. They all want middle-class tax cuts. They all want simplification. They all want the pro-growth policies.
He tells CBS this morning he feels confident the GOP will come together on this bill. Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore, back on the campaign trail, told supporters last night he is not guilty of sexual misconduct. He explained the allegations against him.
This is simply dirty politics.
Prices of Christmas trees are expected to be higher this year. A nationwide Christmas tree shortage is the result of farmers planting fewer trees when demand plummeted in 2008. That was during the Great Recession. I'm Rita Foley.